Hey guys, what is up and welcome to another episode of Did You Know, this one featuring Yasuo. A quick note, I will be streaming tomorrow around noontime and I am trying to prepare for the subwars against Trick in a few weeks. So it'll be really cool to see you guys tomorrow. But without any further ado, let us jump straight into Yasuo's abilities. Did you know that Yasuo's Q applies on-hit effects to the first target hit, which includes things like critical strike damage or things like static shiv? Did you know that Yasuo's wall will block certain spells, yet the spell itself will not disappear? An example of this can be something like Orianna's Ball or Olaf's Q. Yet other spells will, for example Maokai's Sapling or Ziggs's Q. Even though the sapling can be blocked by the wall when it is thrown, if it is landed before the wall, it will be able to run right through it. Also, something like a Leona dash will not go through the wall as well, since her E is considered a projectile when it is flying out. Yasuo's passive reduces critical strike damage by 10%. This applies before the damage mitigation and it is not a subtraction to his crit strike damage stat. This means that the standard 200% crit damage is reduced to 180 and with something like IE, it is reduced down to 225% from 250%. Contrary to popular belief, it seems like something like a Ziggs ultimate is actually able to go over his wall. I did test various scenarios of this, such as standing right in front of Ziggs and throwing down the wall and then having him ulti over it, and standing far away from him and having the ulti fly at me and throwing out the wall just before it hits. Since Yasuo's passive on his W gives extra generation to his resolve, using his ultimate at max range can generate about 18% of his total resolve. Also, did you know that Yasuo's E can be used to traverse through terrain, though it can be very hard to do? It seems Yasuo's E is very unique in the sense that it can be CC'd mid-dash and it will completely stop his dash, while comparing it to someone else of similar dash capabilities. In the same scenario, if a Lucian was hit while he was dashing, he will complete the dash and be CC'd at the very end of it. Did you know that if you have level 5 wind wall, it will only require 4 dashes to get your passive fully stacked? This is assuming you don't attack, get hit, or run around manually. Since Yasuo's ultimate gives him 50% bonus armor pen, if you have a Last Whisper, you would first subtract the 50% of the bonus armor pen and then 35% of the total remaining armor for Last Whisper. Champion jumps and things like Zac ulti when he's bouncing are not considered airborne targets and thus will not let Yasuo ulti them. All of Yasuo's skills except for his W can be blocked by Spell Shield, and this does include his ultimates. However, the chances of that happening can be very slim, since, to my guess, the only way that can happen with this ultimate is if once you knock him up, their Banshee's Veil reactivates in that split second that they are in the air. Reducing the cooldown of Yasuo's Q ability is extremely unique in the sense that CDR items do not actually reduce the cooldown of his Q, but only attack speed does, and it reduces the cooldown by 1% for every 1.72% bonus attack speed. This makes the max CDR on it at 1.33 seconds. However, Yasuo does gain bonus attack speed for every level up, which in turn reduces the cooldown on his Q. At level 18, he could potentially reduce his cooldown almost the full duration just from leveling up. Yasuo's Resolve Shield absorbs the trigger damage rather than taking the damage as a trigger and then activating the shield, which makes his trading potential in lane very high. However, on the contrary, don't forget that he can ulti targets that are airborne from ally spells, things like Janna Tornado, Riven's Q, the third part of it, and many other things. Here's a very odd one that's potentially a bug. Trundle's Pillar seems to make the target airborne for a split second, obviously allowing Yasuo to ulti to them. This has got to be probably one of the easiest ways for Yasuo to chain up his ulti. Alright guys, let us jump into some cool facts and lore about Yasuo. Did you know that Yasuo is voiced by Liam O'Brien, who also did Gaara in Naruto, Ukitake in Bleach, and Illidan in Warcraft, and many more? Yasuo in Japanese means honest or peaceful one, yet this wasn't his actual birth name and he got this name after he joined the sword school to try and steady his wild nature. Yasuo's appearance may resemble to Musashi Miyamoto, who is a Japanese swordsman and wandering samurai. His techniques can resemble Ho'omaru from the game series Samurai Spirits, who coincidentally is also based off of Miyamoto as well. This can further be backed by Yasuo's taunt, where he spits his drink on his blade, which is what Ho'omaru does as well to bless his sword before a battle. Apparently, according to Riot Ransom, Yasuo uses Pantene to keep his hair looking beautiful, and oh so luscious. The main inspiration for Yasuo was the classic samurai movies where, quote, people are killing each other not because they want to, but because they're obligated to, end quote. Apparently nothing from Yasuo's prototype kit made it to his final design, other than of course him being a samurai style champion. Wind Wall was one of the hardest abilities that the quality assurance team at Riot Games had to face yet, potentially on par with Omen of Death. Yasuo's quote,
"Ninjas, I hate those guys.
is very similar to Ezreal's quote.
Noxians. I hate those guys.
Yasuo's other quote,
No one is promised tomorrow.
is a reference to Clint Eastwood's quote, tomorrow is promised to no one, end quote. Yasuo's other quote,
A wanderer isn't always lost.
is a reference to J.R.R. Tolkien's quote, not all who wander are lost, end quote, line from the poem, quote, all that is gold does not glitter, end quote. Did you know that Yasuo has special quotes when taunting Master Yi, an enemy ninja, Riven, or when seeing Riven use her Q? Let's take a listen to a Master Yi quote.
Would you? Never heard of it.
Here's one of the lines that he says when he taunts a ninja.
Scurry back to your shadows, ninja.
And here's one of the lines when he taunts Riven.
Broken sword, broken spirit.
And this is what he says when he sees Riven use her Q in front of him.
3 swift strikes.
The reason Yasuo's skin is a Western theme is due to it being inspired from the classic spaghetti westerns by Sergio Leone, which is in turn inspired off of the same Japanese samurai on which Yasuo is initially based off of. So far, only Yasuo and TF share the High Noon theme. In this skin, he wields a gunblade, which is a type of weapon that originates from the Final Fantasy franchise. Here is some lore about Yasuo. The reason he is considered a lone wanderer is because in his Ionian sword school, he was protecting his elder during a Noxus invasion, but he decided to leave the post and help in the middle of the fight, thinking that he can solely win the battle. When he returned, the elder was dead and Yasuo turned himself in, feeling disgraced for letting that happen. However, he was accused of actually committing the murder, and he knew that if he died from this, the real assassin would get away, which is why he fought his way out of his school knowing that all of Ionia would probably be against him after this. He was chased by members of Ionia constantly until one of them was his brother, who Yasuo had to cut down unfortunately as well. His brother, in his dying words, told Yasuo that the elder was killed by a wind technique, which is why Yasuo was the one that was accused. But now he has a better idea of the target that he is chasing. This is why Yasuo is listed as a rival with Riven, and why Yasuo has special quotes of him questioning her techniques, potentially suggesting that she was the killer. Here's another quote that Yasuo has to Riven that further backs this up.
Which weighs more, Riven? Your blade or your past?
And as well,
Wait, that technique.
from this, Yasuo is now considered a traitor of Ionia, which means that people like Aurelia and Master Yi are potentially his enemies now. Alright guys, that unfortunately does mark the end of this episode of Did You Know featuring Yasuo. If you enjoyed this episode, please don't forget to throw in a like and maybe share it with your friends as well. Also, please write in the comments below who you would like to see for the next episode. Like I mentioned at the beginning of this video, I will be streaming tomorrow and I am trying to prepare for sub wars against Trick, however we need more subs on Twitch. So if you want to battle your way against the Trick subs as Redmercy subs, I recommend you guys tune in tomorrow. But as always, I hope you guys enjoyed this episode and I also hope to see you next time. Peace.